days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. Time for the tale of the tape, which means we're getting into the numbers. We're going to look at how these two teams have been doing this season, how they're winning, how they're accomplishing their goals, how are they playing on defense, how they are playing on offense. And one of the key factors in looking at tail of the tape is you just see what the matchup kind of consists of. Where are the 49ers strong right now? What are they doing well? What are the Arizona Cardinals doing well right now? And where do these matchups kind of interconnect? Who's going to match up well against the others? The 49ers are a really good run team against a Cardinals really good run defense, or is it going to be a 49ers passing offense against maybe a struggling passing defense for the Cardinals? We'll see if those things match up or if that's not the case, right? 49ers offense really hasn't ran the ball well, but the Cardinals have been really good on defense. Does that mean the 49ers look to run the ball a little bit? Also going to get into some of the key injuries. Arizona Cardinals dealing with some injuries at certain positions. 49ers dealing with certain injuries. So we're going to start setting up as well who's going to be in, who's going to be out this week. More will still be decided, of course, as we go through the week and practices start happening. But we do know that some of the things are moving in positive direction, and some of it we just have to wait on. When you have guys in concussion protocol, you just don't know when those players are going to be available until they actually start practicing or if they're going to be available for that week. It is hard for a player to get a concussion and then be able to play the next week. It does happen, but it is difficult for them to clear concussion protocol. So there's going to be a lot of things to talk about in this, but we're going to set up this divisional matchup between the San Francisco 49ers and Arizona Cardinals, the home opener for the 49ers. And it's going to be an absolute blast. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. If you're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. But let's get right into this matchup because I think it's a lot of fun, when you're looking at the numbers. And we got to start, with the records. Both these teams are 2-0. Now, they have one common opponent. Both teams beat the New Orleans Saints. The 49ers beat them by 5. The Cardinals beat them by 7. 49ers beat them 26-21. The Arizona Cardinals defeated the New Orleans Saints in the Week 1 matchup 20-13. So those are the commonalities between the two and how they've played, against common opponents. Both teams able to win. Both teams able to win one-score games against a competitive New Orleans Saints team. I think that's the best way to describe them, as competitive. They've been in both of their matchups. They haven't been able to win, but Kellen Moore's team has definitely, proven to be effective. But you're looking at this matchup. The 49ers have one win in the division. So 49ers come into this ahead in the NFC West standings over the undefeated Arizona Cardinals, over the undefeated Los Angeles Rams, because they beat Seattle in Week 1, and Seattle is 1-1 at the bottom of the division. But this division is proving to be very successful in the league. Right now, there's not very many undefeated teams in the NFL. 3 of them reside in the NFC West: 49ers, Cardinals, Rams. Now, after this week, that's going to change. It could only be one, but there will be one undefeated. It'll either be the 49ers or the Cardinals for sure. The Rams play the Philadelphia Eagles. They might win, so there could be 2. But there will at least be one undefeated still left in the NFC West, and that will be the division leader will be coming from one of these two teams. The 49ers win 2-0 in the division, they will be at top of the NFC West. The Cardinals win, even though they only have one win in the division, and the 49ers have one win in the division, they would hold the head-to-head matchup, so they would take the early lead in the NFC West. And I think this is going to be a fun battle all year. These NFC West teams are pretty good. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's look at the points. 49ers right now averaging 21.5 points. Arizona Cardinals 23.5. So definitely not the offensive output the 49ers have been used to in years past. A little bit of, a lower scoring, a bit, number for the Niners. Of course, partly because week 1 against Seattle, 49ers offense only accounted for 17 points. This week against the New Orleans Saints, they got 26. For the Arizona Cardinals, it was a little bit of a smaller output in week 1, but they got to go in Carolina. So 2 offenses that definitely scored more points in their game 2 matchup. So offenses that look like they could be on the ascend as far as scoring points. And for the Arizona Cardinals, they've been very effective in the red zone as well. Now, you look at the offensive yards per game, San Francisco 49ers getting 364 yards per game between pass and rush. You look at the Cardinals, they're at 284. They haven't had to move the ball a lot. And you look at some of the things that happened in the Carolina Panthers game, they were provided some short fields. Their defense generated some turnovers. They even generated a touchdown. It was a strip sack by Josh Sweat. It was recovered by Zaven Collins. He takes it in the end zone for a touchdown. So you're seeing the Arizona Cardinals defense and Coach Jonathan Gannon making some plays, helping that team make plays. And I think that's somewhat why the Arizona Cardinals numbers are a little bit lower when it comes to offense, is they haven't had to be as effective on offense because their defense has been playing pretty darn good over the last 2 games. And ultimately, that's what you're looking for, is those guys that are going to be able to do that. Now, let's look at the injuries for the 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals. And there's a lot of injuries. And we have some updates on the key injuries for Arizona for sure. So during the game last week, Max Melton, Garrett Williams, and Will Johnson all went down with injuries. And this is literally their starting cornerbacks. That's already after they lost Sean Murphy-Bunting and Starling Thomas to injuries before the season. So this cornerback room is definitely a little bit on the injured side. Now, the good news for the Cardinals, Max Melton is going to practice this week. It looks like he's trending towards playing. They really need that. Garrett Williams, on the other hand, he's going on the IR. He will not be playing this week. They're also losing Collier as well. He's going on the IR. So LJ Collier, one of their defensive ends, he's going to be out. Add that to the list when it comes to Garrett Williams, who is also going to be out. So the Arizona Cardinals dealing with some injuries in the secondary. That's going to put a lot of pressure on guys like Denzel Burke and Cottrell Clark to be able to help in that secondary, help guys, that are going to be able to play like Max Melton. So Melton is going to be one of the keys to watch, in this game too, just how he's able to deal with the injury that he's been dealing with. And there's no confirmation for sure he's going to play, but the fact that he's practicing, I think, goes a long way to showing he's got the ability to step in. And then with Will Johnson's not practicing this week. So we don't know what that means for his ability to play against the 49ers. There's a chance Will Johnson doesn't go, and that out of their starting 3 cornerbacks that they had last week, that only Max Melton is able to play. That is a real possibility. So definitely the injury bug stacking at a position for the Arizona Cardinals. As you see 5 guys on this list, that's tough. And 2 of those guys they lost before the season. It does look like Max Melton's going to play, so just remember that. Now, defensive tackle Walter Nolan is a player of note. 49er fans definitely wanted to draft Walter Nolan during the draft process. He's out. He's been dealing with an injury. And also offensive linebacker B.J. Ojolari, he's also out with an injury. A couple of notable names for the Arizona Cardinals defense that are going to be out. They're on the PUP list or IR, so they are players that aren't going to be able to help in this football team. Plenty of pass rush, plenty of defensive line help for the Arizona Cardinals, but I wanted to point those out. Now, for the 49ers, quarterback Brock Purdy, what is this week going to look like? I think it's presumed that Mac Jones is going to start. We'll find out more as this week progresses, but, Brock Purdy looks like it's a long shot still for him to play. So Mac Jones is more than likely going to be at the helm for the 49ers. Fullback Kyle Juszczyk is in concussion protocol. That's what I was kind of alluding to earlier. We don't know for sure when he's going to be able to clear protocol. Kristen Juszczyk, his wife, said that, he was doing well and kind of presented a positive front. But, whenever it comes to concussion protocol, you just don't know how quickly these players are going to move through. So we'll be monitoring this through the week and seeing what happens. But this thing is probably going to come down, to the wire. It'll come down to either Friday or Saturday, and they'll make a decision if Kyle Juszczyk's going to be able to play. Wide receiver Jawan Jennings is day-to-day. He's dealing with an ankle. That came out of the last game. He was already dealing with a shoulder, and before that, a calf. So Juwan Jennings has been a little beat up, but still highly productive last week. But we'll be monitoring Juwan Jennings, and mainly the process is as long as he's out there, as this week progresses, later on in the week he's getting practice time, he'll be just fine. Left guard Ben Barch, he's going to be out several weeks. I think he's likely to end up on the 49ers IR. If by the time you're watching this, he might already be on the IR. I had to record this before I go to work, so just so you know, that could be the case. Offensive tackle Spencer Burford. 49ers brought in several offensive linemen for workouts, including guys they've had on this team before, like Chris Hubbard and Brandon Parker. That could be because of Spencer Burford's injury. We'll see. He's dealing with a knee. We'll see what that ends up looking like as well. That could be a big thing. And then Saran Neal, who's also in concussion protocol for the San Francisco 49ers. So the injury bug definitely hitting both teams. For the 49ers, it hasn't been significant enough to where players are out for the season. And for the Arizona Cardinals, it's kind of hitting all at one position. That could make, a huge determining factor on how the 49ers are able to, score against this defense that's been pretty darn good this season, but multiple injuries in the secondary could hold them back a little bit. Now, when you look at how these teams are doing running the football, the Arizona Cardinals at 114 yards, actually down from normal for them. They are usually a very impactful run offense, but James Conner has been effective, but not quite as good of rushing attack if they've had in the past. But they still got a really good running back room with James Conner and Trey Benson. So expect them to try to run the football consistently against the 49ers defense because they've had a lot of success against the 49ers defense in the past, and I expect that they're going to try to have the same thing happen in this. Now, you look at the 49ers, under 100 yards, rushing yards per game. You don't see that very often for the 49ers offense. Even last year without Christian McCaffrey, they averaged over 120 at 129 yards per game on the ground. And so it's a little bit odd to see that number. The first week, they were effective. They had over 120 yards rushing, but this last week, it wasn't as effective. That number came down extensively. And so we'll see. Can the 49ers get the run game going? I think this is one of those interesting questions about the 49ers football team is when you look at what they do in the run game, is it the offensive line that's holding them back? Is it the just the fact that the running backs aren't getting it? Is the defense is the one influencing it? I think it's a little of all, right? Seattle game, I thought the offensive line tight end struggled a little bit. And I think that this last week against New Orleans, the offensive line tight ends blocked much better. They were more effective, and they just didn't count on the running game as much. They only had 26 carries. The week before, they had 36, 10 less carries, less opportunities for plays. They relied on the passing game. Some of that was because Brandon Staley loaded the box. So remember that when looking at these numbers, there are cause and effects to those, and that's part of it. And part of it is this: 49ers very successful throwing the football, 266 yards per game through the air. Whether it's Brock Purdy or Mac Jones at quarterback, the 49ers have been able to be consistently over 250 yards, in the passing game and finding effectiveness no matter who they put out there as skill players. The first week, Ricky Pearsall goes over 100 yards and 4 catches, very explosive. This week, it was Juwan Jennings, they had the explosive 42-yard touchdown, and he goes, for over 80 yards receiving. Effectiveness. Kendrick Bourne was effective. His 3 catches resulted in over 10 yards per reception. Christian McCaffrey continues to be a volume dynamic receiver for the 49ers. They just continue to find him. So it's been a successful, offense for the 49ers. And when you look at the Cardinals, week 1, it was about Trey McBride, and Trey McBride's been absolutely phenomenal. And then when you look at what happened in the second matchup, Michael Wilson really had a big game, catching touchdown passes. He would have had 2. The screen got called back for holding, but he was very effective for Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray has been very accurate. He's thrown completed passes for 70%, which we're, about to talk about. But I don't think they're putting up the numbers with the type of players that they have that they're expecting, right? They were expecting to put up a lot more numbers when you have guys like Marvin Harrison and Zay Flowers and, Zay Jones, these guys that can go out there and make plays, and Michael Wilson. So I think that they're expecting to make a few more plays here and there, but ultimately the offense hasn't done a lot in the passing game or the running game. It's been a lot of short fields and defense. But give him credit. I mean, that's how you win. Now let's look at the matchup, quarterback matchup. Mac Jones versus Kyler Murray. Mac Jones, 66.7% completion rate. Very good. You see Kyler Murray, 70.4. He's doing a good job of taking what defense is given to him, checking it down, throwing it to the players that are open underneath. He's been efficient and effective in those manners. Mac Jones threw for 279 yards in last week's game versus New Orleans. Kyler Murray through 2 weeks, 383 yards. So, it's not a big volume. It's effective, though, and he's been very effective. Mac Jones has 3 touchdowns. Kyler Murray has 3 touchdowns through the air. Interceptions, Kyler Murray's been intercepted once. Mac Jones not intercepted. He did have the strip fumble, though. That was very pivotal in that game versus New Orleans. 49ers had a chance to go up 2 scores. Of course, it didn't happen. You look at the sacks. Mac Jones in his one game, he was sacked 3 times. Kyler Murray's been sacked 6, and that's something, even though Kyler Murray's hyper athletic and able to scramble and move around in the pocket, he does take sacks, and a lot of times he loses a lot of yards on those sacks. So you have an opportunity. You're 1 sack away from really putting Arizona in a bad situation where you can go get after him and be able to get off the field. So that's something to always watch with Kyler Murray. He loses more yards than almost any other quarterback when he gets sacked. Now, when it comes to quarterback rating, you see Mac Jones 113.1, and for Kyler Murray 101.1 through 2 games, both very effective right now at the quarterback position. So it's going to be an interesting matchup between these 2 teams when it comes to the quarterback position. Mac Jones, Kyler Murray, both first-round picks. And so this isn't the typical matchup we get of Kyler versus Brock Purdy, versus Arizona, but it's still going to be a lot of fun with Mac Jones. Now, let's look at the third down conversion rate. 49ers offense has been very good on third down, whether it's Brock Purdy or it's been Mac Jones. And they love having third and short, but even when they have third and medium, third and long, they've been effective so far this year. But they've definitely faced a lot more third and shorts this season than they did last season. So a very good 51% conversion rate on third down. It's effective last week. The first week of the season against Seattle, they were 50% against a very good Mike McDonald defense. Last week against New Orleans, they were, over 50%. So now they arrive at 51%. It's been effective offense on third down for the 49ers. That's one of the ways you win the time of possession. You keep yourself on the field, and you create long drives that usually generate points. You got to win on third down sometimes in the NFL. And so far, 49ers have been able to do that. You look at Arizona, they haven't been as good on third down. And so this is an area the 49ers need to take advantage of. They need to make Arizona face third and longs. And this has been a method for the 49ers the whole season is, earn the right to rush the passer on third down, face third and longs, have a shot to get off the field. So I think that, Arizona needs to be a lot more effective on third down if they expect to beat the 49ers in this game. But it hasn't been terrible. But you don't want to be around 40%. You want to be up 45 and higher. But you're not under 40%, which is, where you're starting to get towards the bad situation. So it hasn't been bad. It just hasn't been as effective as I'm sure they want to be. Now, when you look at third down conversion percentage allowed, 49ers and Cardinals defenses have both been good on third down, stopping the opposing team and getting off the field. That's what I've been talking about. Arizona's defense is leading the charge right now for this football team, generating turnovers, getting off the field on third down. That's, good field position's been really good for the Cardinals offense. They've been able to take advantage of it. They're good in the red zone. We'll talk about that in a minute. So 49ers, 33%, that is really good. We talked about this. 30% and lower is elite. Under 35% is really good. So both of these teams are in the really good category. And I think the 49ers know that as long as they can kind of hover around that area and force a lot of punts, get off the field, give their offense more opportunities, they're going to score points. So both defenses are good. You're going to have to stay ahead of the sticks this week and get to, third and short. So red zone offense, 49ers and Cardinals are identical in this game, 57% each. So both of them convert a 57% rate when they get in the red zone and scoring touchdowns. Effective. Not ultimately, right, not going to be one of the top in the league. You've got to be closer to 70% to be that elite category, one of the tops in the league. 2023 49ers, 68% led the NFL. Last year, they were right around here. They were at 58%. So effective red zone offense is exactly what both these teams want. last week the 49ers were 2 of 2 in the red zone, so very effective. They've got to make sure that they are effective in this one. The team that scores touchdowns over field goals is going to win this game. It's one of the key factors, especially in divisional matchups where teams are matched up like they are, and they have a lot of talent, a lot of times equally matched teams. So this is going to be a big one. And for the Cardinals, they've got to convert on their red zone opportunities as well. I talked about last week, they had the penalty on what would have been a touchdown on a screen pass, and it was called back because of holding. You can't allow those penalties, those field goals. It was fine in that game. They were able to get the win over Carolina, but it almost snuck up and caught them in the end. And so that's something that you can't have. Those penalties inside the red zone are very costly. Now, when you're looking at the defensive red zone rate and how they're allowing touchdowns, last week was not good for Robert Saleh's defense. They allowed the New Orleans Saints to go 3 for 3, and that really bolted this number up there. 66% is not good allowing touchdowns. They need to get this thing back down. It needs to be under 50% to be a very effective defense. I'm sure that that's going to be a point of emphasis for the 49ers this week. We just talked about the Cardinals being effective in the red zone at 57%. This is a situation where the 49ers need to force more field goals than they allow touchdowns. So this is going to be one of those keys in this game is red zone effectiveness for both offenses against these defenses. For the Cardinals, you see they've been good. They're sitting in a good category where half the time they're holding you to a field goal. That's effective defense. You'd love for this to be lower, but that's still really good. And so the Cardinals, this is going to be a key to this game. And the Cardinals stopped the 49ers from scoring in the red zone. 49ers 2 of 2 last week. And the Cardinals make them 50%. If they can, they got a chance to come away with the win. So this is one of those key battles in this game is red zone effectiveness. Now let's look at the points allowed per game. 49ers allow 17 points per game. Cardinals allow 17.5 points per game. Really close, right? So 49ers gave up, 13 points to the Seahawks week 1. Week 2, they gave up 21 points to the New Orleans Saints. The Arizona Cardinals gave up 13 points to the New Orleans Saints. And then last week, were able to hold Carolina off down the stretch and, preserve that win. So we've got two defenses that are playing good, that are keeping teams from scoring points. This is kind of that range you want to be. Anywhere from 17, to 18 is kind of the really good category. If you want to get elite, you want to get around 15 and below. You figure if you can hold a team to under 2 touchdowns and that means all you have to do is score 2 touchdowns and a field goal to win. That's that elite category. Right now, both teams are keeping the opposing teams out of the end zone and off the scoreboard, and that's one of the key elements in this game. Now, defensive yards allowed per game, 49ers are allowing, 268 yards per game. The Arizona Cardinals are allowing 333. And so you can see the Cardinals are giving up more yards, but really not allowing more points, which is the main topic. But teams are able to kind of go up and down the field a little bit more on the Cardinals, especially late in games where these teams have been trying to come back throwing the football. So this is a big portion of this game plan for the Niners is let's stay on the field. Let's be effective converting on third down. That's why it's going to be huge. And let's win the time of possession. If you can do that and then convert on your red zone opportunities, you have a chance because the Cardinals will give up some yards, both through the air and on the ground, but especially through the air. That's kind of the way to go about it. With the 49ers defense, they've been stingy. You want this to be under 250 yards or around 250 yards of total offense that you allow. So a little bit more than they like. And it just gives you kind of a glimpse, of how teams are able to kind of move the ball, but you got the bend and don't break styles. And as long as you stop them, it's huge. You look at pass yards allowed per game, and this is what I was talking about earlier. Cardinals allowing 255 yards through the air per game. It's not, effective secondary play right now. Now they do generate a lot of pass rush. They have guys up there that can get after the quarterback, and that's very useful. That's something the 49ers offensive line is going to have to be prepared for. But with the injuries to the secondary, it'll be nice having Bo Melton out there. But Garrett Williams being out, potentially being, without your young rookie star cornerback as well, and Will Johnson, that one will kind of hurt. What's it going to be if he's not out there? You're probably going to have Cottrell Clark, starting out there with Max Melton. What will that mean for your nickel position? Is it going to be Dadrian Demerson, that goes in as a big nickel? Will it be Denzel Burke? How are they going to do that? So it's going to be interesting to see, what they end up doing with these guys, but the secondary is definitely a weakness. You look at the 49ers and all the conversation last week, about Renardo Green and, the week before about Upton Stout and some of the weaknesses in the secondary. And they've only given up 166 yards this season through the air, per game. So they've been effective. A lot of that, they generate pass rush. They've forced a lot of third and longs. And that really helps your football team. So it's a little bit of a stark comparison between the two. Now, the Cardinals' run defense has been very good. And a couple of reasons why. Number one, they're very stout up front. When you just look at their defensive line, Calais Campbell's a monster. Dalvin Tomlinson, a really good run stopper. Darius Robinson, their first round pick from a couple years ago. I think he was first round. Yeah. 24th overall. He's very good at helping stop the run. So they got those guys up front, and that's really huge for them. They also got Dante Stills, who does a great job. They got good edge defenders when it comes to helping stop the run. Guys like Baron Browning and Zaven Collins, those guys are going to help along the way. That's part of the reason they're effective when it comes to stopping the run. The other reason they're effective is they've been playing in front. They've been taking the lead over the teams that they've been playing, and so those teams have had to turn to the passing game, right? You have more passing yards on you if the team is throwing more at the end. And that's what's happened in both games, especially New Orleans. It threw 46 times against the Arizona Cardinals in that game. So they really abandoned the run. And, it's crazy they did that because Alvin Kamara was having some effectiveness on the ground versus the Cardinals, which could give the 49ers a little bit of an idea. And when it comes to the 49ers defense, 102 yards per game is a little bit too much to give up. They need to get this down. They'd love this to be closer to 90 yards per game. Anything over 100 is not effective. They were good the first week. They gave up 88 yards, on the ground. But week 2, they gave up too much to Alvin Kamara, who had 100 yards. Some of it was by design. Robert Saleh, at some point during the second half, decided to stay in his NASCAR package on 2nd and 10 to go to a NASCAR package early. It's normally 3rd down, and allow Alvin Kamara to pick up a little bit of yards and force a 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, knowing that he would invite them to run the ball and then just try to get off the field on 3rd down. It was a method to his madness, but it generated more opportunities on the ground. And so the 49ers got to make sure that they're good on the ground against the Cardinals, because the Cardinals will try to run the ball, in this game and run the ball effectively. Now let's talk about giveaways. 49ers have 3 this season. The 2 Brock Purdy interceptions in week 1 versus Seattle. And, those weren't good. Those were bad turnovers. And then last week, the strip sack from Mac Jones, and a tough situation. Mac waiting for somebody to get open. Looked like he was just about to throw it to Luke Farrell when, Chris Rumpf got there. And what a tough play for Colton McKivitz. Chris Rumpf goes down, and Colton McKivitz is trying to kind of adjust him going down. And when he does that, Rumpf hurries to his feet, and Colton McKivitz kind of stumbles, and he's able to get home and get to the quarterback for the strip sack. So 49ers are turning the ball over a little bit this season, 2 in week 1, 1 in week 2. Could they put up a goose egg? If they don't turn over the football, you definitely have a better chance to win. All right. That's one of the key elements. It's like not hard to figure out. And then for Arizona, just the one giveaway, just the Kyler Murray interception. That's it. And so they've been effective at protecting the football, and you got to protect the football in this league if you're going to be a team that makes a lot of plays and a team that's able to, kind of win these tough battles that are close divisional matchups. You look at takeaways. 49ers have 3 right now. All 3 of them are fumbles. All 3 are fumbles. So in week 1, you had the Sambo Kawan who caused a fumble. It was recovered by Marcus Siegel. Then you had the Nick Bosa sack that he created by pushing Abraham Lucas into Sam Darnold. He got the ball then. And then you had, last week you had Fred Warner coming up with the ball from Alvin Kamara, where he stripped it when Alvin Kamara had the ball pinned against his head for a really pivotal play in that game that resulted in a touchdown drive by Jawan Jennings. So 49ers are getting to the football. Bryce Huff had another one. He caused a fumble. 49ers weren't able to recover it, but it generated a turnover on downs. They're doing a good job generating turnovers. They just haven't been able to, have that turnover differential go in their favor, because they're still giving the ball away on offense a little bit more than they want to. Then when you look at the takeaways for the Cardinals, they have been effective. 1 fumble recovery, 1 interception. The fumble recovery by Zaven Collins, I talked about it from last week. It was a strip sack by Josh Sweat, and then boom, Zaven Collins able to get to the ball in the scramble, get into the end zone for the touchdown. So right now, they're doing a pretty good job creating opportunities, and they're got a turnover differential of +1. You want to be in the plus category. 49ers right now are in the even category. So, if you're going to be a very effective team, you need to win the turnover battle. Right now, they're not winning the turnover battle. If they were, they would be winning those games by a lot more points. So that's going to be a point of emphasis. Getting the ball is working. Not turning over the football is something they've got to get a little bit better at. It was a little bit better last week with just the one turnover, but you can't be effective if you're going to turn over the football and not win the turnover battle. So that's something to remember along the way when it comes to, the San Francisco 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals and who wins this game. It ultimately comes down to a couple of key elements, and one of those is who wins the turnover battle. And we talk about this, every single week, about turnovers and what it takes to win. And turnovers is always a big one. Red zone effectiveness, another one that's a big one. But this game is setting up to be really good when you kind of look at the matchups. 49ers aren't running the ball well, and the Arizona Cardinals are really good against the run. 49ers are throwing it well. Cardinals struggling a little bit when it comes to secondary, especially with injuries. You might have an opportunity there if you're the 49ers offense. Then you look at the Cardinals, and they're running the ball effectively. 49ers defense, not exactly the best there. Then when you look at the passing game, 49ers secondary has been really good. Cardinals haven't been great throwing the football. They've been effective. Trey McBride's been, successful, which he always is, and they've got a lot of weapons over there on the offensive side of the football. So it's going to be a good one. Lots more content to come out this week. I'm looking forward to talking more 49ers versus Cardinals and setting this game up. I appreciate you all coming through this episode. And I gotta bring up FanDuel. FanDuel has got the odds on this game at 1.5. This is basically almost a pick'em game, and the spread is 1.5. The over under is 43.5, and so this is one of those games that you can kind of see that's gonna be fun. It's gonna be tight, and that's why we're gonna watch these numbers and watch how things play out. But if you're gonna bet with FanDuel. It's going to be a lot of fun. Player props and everything are coming out. Lots of cool stuff to bet on. But thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network. Please give it a 5-star rating. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the title sponsor of 49ers Cutback. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.